Buddy, since I'm 35 and he's 27, I don't have the same need to go out and party on New Year's Eve, so I was more than happy to make some money and relax for the evening. Alex hired me to care his dog Bailey for the weekend while he was out of town for the holidays. He gave me very simple instructions to simply feed him, walk him twice a day, and keep him off the furniture on New Year's Eve, a Saturday. He would return to the city early on Sunday night. Since Bailey is well-mannered and quiet, Alex felt comfortable with me babysitting her rather than a dog sitter. Bailey is a very little husky mix. I'm not sure what else she is. She's about a third the size of a standard husky. I packed a bag with my laptop charger, personal hygiene products, and Sunday clothes. Alex and I don't go way back. We met through mutual friends and had started going out occasionally on the weekends, ever since I would be sleeping in the spare bedroom of his house on the futon. Throughout the day, I just did stuff on my laptop and played some of Alex's video games later in the night. I invited my girl over with Alex's permission. His response was, "You better not in my bed," a way of jokingly saying, yes, she can come over. She said she'd be getting out of work after 12. But then she'd come straight over. Alex's house is about half an hour from us, so my girl Trisha wouldn't be getting there until late. I had to kill the time alone with Bailey, watching movies until then. We were in the living room, and Bailey was by my feet. It was probably 9 p.m. when the doorbell rang. I went to answer the door, and it was a girl at the door. She looked about 30. She had a hoodie on and was holding a jacket. She introduced herself as Alex's girlfriend and said she left something here that she needed to grab. I offered to grab it if she wanted, and she said no, it's okay. She knew where it was in his room. I said, okay, that's fine, and let her inside. She went straight upstairs to Alex's room and slightly closed the door behind her without latching it. I right away texted Alex, "I didn't know you had a girlfriend. She was in there for quite some time until she came back out." Still holding her jacket, she came back down the stairs and thanked me and was going straight for the door. I tried to stop her for a quick conversation saying, "How long have you guys been dating?" And she said too long, then laughed as if making a joke. I laughed too, and then she said, "Have a good night." I was taken aback by the exchange, but what I took away from it was that they had most likely recently broken up. Alex hadn't returned my texts, so I called him a few times before he answered. He was outside talking with his friends, so he couldn't hear me. I told him his girlfriend had just stopped by to pick up something, and he was really confused by what I was saying. I replied, "She's your girlfriend," but he didn't get a name. He yelled, "You know I don't have a girlfriend." I didn't get a chance to get his name. At this point, I began to feel extremely foolish. I described the girl, and he said he didn't know who this could have. Ed became extremely upset and told me to go up to his room immediately to see if she had taken anything. Since I had no idea what was in there beforehand, he made me look for specific items, all of which seemed to be still there. He then made several calls and sent me some pictures of different girls, which understandably made his night more difficult. I felt very foolish for allowing such an unknown girl into the house. He began sending me screenshots of various girls on Instagram, none of whom looked like the girl who had entered. He then went silent for an hour, at which point he texted me sporadically and said, "I think I know who it was. Make sure she doesn't come back." I responded, "Okay, my bad," and left it at that. Clearly, Alex was going through some serious girl drama or so. I thought I watched the ball drop alone. Not that I really care about the new year or the ball drop at all later that night. Trisha finally made it over, and so we hung out in the living room together. I told her what happened and she was shocked, but then a freakish coincidence happened. Bailey lifted her head and looked at the front door, and then there was a knocking at the door. Whoever it was didn't ring the bell. There was no shot. I was opening it. I called Alex a bunch of times, but he didn't pick up. He was wasted and didn't even feel his phone vibrating. She and I stayed quiet an event. Eventually, whoever it was went away. I was honestly unnerved now. Surely it was in connection to whoever that girl was earlier. Maybe it was even her again. Either way, I didn't want to get involved any further in what was going on after this. We decided to migrate to the spare bedroom where we'd stay for the night on the futon. We had a movie on as we laid down, and I held her. We fell asleep in this position and woke up at some unknown hour in the night, which I later found out was less than an hour after we fell asleep. I woke to Bailey's howling. She was in the room with us. Trisha woke up after me. At the bedroom door, Bailey was wagging her tail and howling. I whispered to her to stop, but she ignored me and kept staring at the door, growling and making unhappy whimpering noises. Suddenly we heard footsteps on the wood floors outside, and we assumed there were at least 2 pairs of feet making their way to the door. Fortunately, we had the door locked and a girl's voice said, "Alex." I turned to face Trisha and motioned for her to keep quiet, but she wasn't alone. There was another light knock on the door and she said, "Who's in there? This is Alex's house." I decided to say, almost loudly, "The cops have been on their way for a few minutes now, just so you know." Trisha did as I whispered into the phone, and I said loud and clear, "I dare you to do something because the cops will be running through the front door." I heard a whisper on the other side of the door, followed by several pairs of footsteps walking away from the door. We remained in the room while we waited for the police to arrive, because the front door had been left wide open by those people. After a few minutes of phone conversation between him and one police officer, and me and Trisha, talking to another police officer, it was assumed that there was a key in Alex's room that had been taken by the girl hours earlier. This was a rather messy situation, because Alex couldn't just come home this late. Instead, he practically begged me to stay the rest of the night. I had Trisha go home, but I stayed because I felt guilty for letting that girl in the first place. I spent the rest of the night locked in that room with Bailey, literally wedged a chair against the front door in a half-hearted attempt to keep them out if they decided to return by morning, though it didn't seem like they did. That day, Alex returned sooner than expected. He did tell me who he thought the girl was, and the story behind it proves that men have to be careful too with the women they choose to interact with that girl, and whoever was with her intention to break in wasn't to steal anything evidently, which is the scariest part.